Kamala Desica, Product Marketing Lead for VMware Tanzu Ecosystem. Welcome to the session From Buzzwords to Bottom Line, told from the perspective of VMware partners. In this session, we'll take a trip around the globe to hear from partners on how they are growing their business and helping their customers reach their application modernization goals with VMware Tanzu. Today, you're going to hear from several partners from a variety of geographies, each providing a unique take on Tanzu and their own customer experiences. We'll hear from Ahead in the Midwestern US and head towards Colorado, where we hear from Capstone, and then take a big hop to Dubai to hear from Hugo, who do a lot of work in Europe and the Middle East. And finally, we're off to Bangalore, India, where we hear from Wipro, a global system integrator and solution provider. So let's begin with our longtime partner, Ahead, where we are joined by their chief architect, Mike Colino.
So thank you so much, Kamala. My name is Mike Colino. As you stated, I am a chief architect at Ahead. I focus in our modern applications group at Ahead. Ahead's been a long-running VMware and Dell Technologies partner. I'm primarily focused with working with our customers, large enterprises out in the field, identifying ways for them to modernize both applications as well as infrastructure, and in many scenarios, working with customers to combine that motion together in sort of a new way of reimagining modern IT.
Yeah, and this really makes you sort of puts you in the best position to really unpack all these big shifts in technology that we're seeing today.
What's crystallizing a bit is that this sort of VMs versus containers, that whole sort of debate, I think is falling by the wayside in favor of a conversation now that's VMs and containers. And I think that's important because we, especially as I walk into some of these large enterprises, there's just massive footprints of not only custom applications that have been developed and deployed to virtual machines and have been running in sort of a steady state for years, if not decades. But we also see the benefits and the evolution of moving from VMs to containers, and the fact that because of the sort of interconnectedness and integration of applications across the application portfolio, that we're most often going to run into situations where it is going to be containers and VM scenario versus trying to shoehorn everything that we have running associated with a solution end-to-end out of VMs and into containers.
So how do you see this affecting developers then?
I think the natural balance here is what we see with any new technology that comes out. Developers see the efficiency, they want to embrace it, full scale. And unfortunately, the realities of the enterprise don't allow them to do that. And I would say, again, for those who've been around long enough, they should be used to this. And when I say used to this, I mean, they're essentially going to have a foot in both worlds here for the foreseeable future.
So you've been working with VMware Tanzu for quite a bit now then. Do you see Tanzu addressing some of these concerns for customers? Is there a solution market fit?
Absolutely. One of the things that we understand in terms of what both organizations, developers, as well as their operators need is this ability to quickly transition from a VM-centric sort of footprint in a world where VMs and containers can coexist side by side underneath an individual platform. As you extrapolate out, the needs of the organization beyond just having the ability to launch containers alongside of VMs, there's a very real question of, how do we want to bring all these things together? And there's two ways of doing that. The first way is to essentially go out, select a tool for each one of these considerations, and then using its APIs sort of stitch these all together, which is a huge, huge undertaking. But if you contrast that with what we see with the Tanzu portfolio, the alternative is to essentially use the tools that are provided in the portfolio to essentially stitch together a whole story here, an entire platform, not only for operators, but for developers as well.
That's awesome. So how do you see this playing out with customers?
We've had a couple of customers, and I'll talk to maybe two specific examples that I see that are kind of different ways into the Kubernetes story. One of which is an energy company that we're working with, who very much has that particular challenge. They have vendors who are coming to them and saying, we are going to supply our updates and this sort of packaged software in a Kubernetes-based deployment. That's a customer who's kind of coming at this from the sort of VM up, or the traditional sort of operational and development model up the stack, if you will. We're also working with a customer who has traditionally, over the course of the last 4 years, been running the Tanzu application service at scale, and subsequently have a bunch of stateless applications, cloud native apps that have been running on that platform. It's been a huge success for them. That said, they too are getting requests to run packaged software in containers, and subsequently are looking at more sort of stateful workloads, or workloads that might be better positioned for a Kubernetes-based deployment.
Well, on that note, well, good luck to you, Mike, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Mom.
At this time, I'd like to welcome Glenn Tyndall from our partner, Capstone IT. Welcome, Glenn.
Thank you, Kamala. It's great to be here. Thank you for taking the time with me.
Glenn, you wanted to kick us off? Tell us a little bit about yourself and Capstone IT and what you guys do.
Yeah, I'd be glad to. So I am the Solutions Business Unit Leader at Capstone IT. We're a company that's headquartered in Omaha, Nebraska. It's a 20-year-old company with a long history of software development and delivering software engagements or development engagements with customers. We have a history, especially in the last 5 years, of beginning to focus in the world of cloud computing, DevOps, or now DevSecOps, Kubernetes, and containers. I think the reason we're in this business, Kamala, is because we see that there is a tremendous opportunity of growth. So many of our customers over the years have made a lot of infrastructure and operations investments, and they've been very successful, and they've had the opportunity to grow their IT business accordingly. But now we're seeing a big trend focus around applications. And in essence, I think it'd be fair to say that applications have become the business of the customer. Their apps are the way they define themselves. They're the way they produce their brand or position their brand. And ultimately, they're the way that they monetize their business. And accordingly, we've tried to be very focused around providing solutions to the business problems that our customers seem to have. And application modernization and a transition to the cloud is a big, big part of that.
Do you see this being any different now that we're kind of in the middle of COVID, and eventually we'll be post-COVID, hopefully? So,
Yeah, it's another great question. And my goodness, who would have ever thought that we were going to be coming into a year that we've experienced this year? And it's so interesting. Some of the customers that were maybe not quite at the adoption point in the curve that they wanted to be or possibly needed to be before COVID kicked in, have found themselves really scrambling to try and respond to the dynamic change in the marketplace. Those, on the other hand, those customers, those companies, on the other hand, that were pretty methodically working their way through the digital experience were able to truly respond and adapt to the COVID impact that we've seen.
I think you talked about why customers are doing digital transformation. Mm-hmm. How do you see yourself sort of translating the idea of digital transformation, which is clearly business buzzword status at this point? How do you see that translating to actual customer business value and value for yourself too along the way?
Let me take you through an engagement that we had with a very large insurance company. It's a very old insurance company. And it was a company that was building tables that they were used to measure their business on servers that existed, believe it or not, in some cases, under a desk. Imagine you had a person who owned that application and they would build it. It would run on a server that sat under their business, under their desk. And what we approached them with was the idea of taking that app, spending the time to containerize it, and then use that containerized instance as a way to scale across a number of hosted instances in a private cloud. So we made the recommendation to the customer about taking that application, containerizing it, deploying it, and then we took them through the process of a demonstration. Think of it as a proof of concept, right? So the initial step was to provide a recommendation, an analysis phase, if you will. Then what we were able to do is a proof of concept. And through that proof of concept, we were able to scale the app. We were able to move workloads between data centers. And ultimately, what we were able to do was demonstrate the ability to potentially burst from on-prem into the public cloud. Imagine, given the fact that we're a Microsoft Azure partner, or could work with AWS or VMware with AWS, the ability to burst those workloads into the public cloud. So that was sort of the recommendations. Those were the demonstrations that we took the customer through. And it really galvanized in the business the power of containerization and orchestration and infrastructure as code, some of the things that we've touched about. What you see in front of you here, taking that concept of an assess, a proof of concept, a land, if you will, and then potentially an expand, if we were to look at it through the expansion lens. Now let's look at another customer. We had a second customer that has a very large infrastructure on premise, and our proposal was very much the same, where let's get to understand the way your business is intended to run. Let's take you through a proof of concept to demonstrate value, and then let's look at what the scaling model might look like. In this particular case, we wanted to take that same concept or those same steps viewed through the lens of a financial return on investment. And the numbers that you see in front of you are examples of hard dollar costs that we were able to measure and we were able to model on behalf of the customer, such that the IT organization was able to see a tremendous return on investment using the graphs that you see there on the left. The top number that you're looking at is an indication of what we refer to as business as usual. The bottom number that you're looking at, based on our proposals and our recommendations, reflect the numbers that you see in the table to the right. And the gap between the two is the value return on the investment that we were asking the customer to make. So it's a fairly significant evolutionary change to the way their business runs. The efficiency, scalability, performability that they get from the business, but most importantly, the financial benefit return is dramatic. And so we've tried very hard to look at our customers' business, take them along that journey that I mentioned, Kamala, and ultimately model a financial return on that investment for them. So these are the numbers that we're talking about or looking at here.
That's incredible. And this is, I think, potentially showing more and more workloads running on VMware Tanzu over a progression of time.
It
on the
is.
x-axis, right? Okay.
It is. Yeah. And in fact, where you see that some of the numbers like increased availability, those are hard metrics, financial metrics that we've been able to garner. Increased productivity, an example of that is the ability to use the infrastructure much more efficiently. And ultimately, some of the other areas that you're looking at, whether it's patching efficiency or revenue acceleration or what we see on the application side of the business. Think of this as infrastructure and operations and the app owning side of the business at the same time.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Glenn. At this time, I'd like to welcome one of our partners from the EMEA region, Hugo. And representing Hugo is Arjun Prasad. Arjun, do you want to tell us about your role and a little bit about Hugo?
Sure, Kamala, thanks a lot. My name is Arjun Prasad, and I lead sales and operations for Hugo for the Saudi Arabia and Gulf regions, and also directly manage certain strategic clients across these regions. So Hugo has been a VMware partner for quite some time now, and it serves clients across the Middle East, North Africa, and Europe. We created this organization specifically to bring world-class professional services and solutions to the local market. That was the kind of objective that we had for our organization. We would like to believe that we are one of the region's most technically competent organizations in the areas of application modernization, cloud native, DevOps, hybrid cloud, and digital workspaces. And our customers span a wide cross-section of industries, such as banking and financial services, telecom, government, aviation, and enterprise. Hugo is also is proud to be actually one of the first partners globally to achieve all 6 master services competencies from VMware.
I think it would be great for our audience to hear maybe through a customer example within EMEA about what sort of problem sets that they're addressing and how the portfolio is addressing that.
One of the customers that comes to mind immediately is a large government bank that we dealt with in this region. And they were offering both retail and corporate banking services to its customers. Funny enough, it wasn't their original decision to go with Tanzu. The CIO and the stakeholders within the bank had selected a competitive solution. But that's where we stepped in. We went in and we educated the customer and we told them what VMware Tanzu offers them in terms of their benefits. We showcased to them that they have already invested a lot in terms of VMware technologies. They were a huge VMware shop already. And what they were looking for was time to market, trying to get their products and services out faster. And one of the key critical components of this was being able to deliver a platform that could help their developers enable microservices, have this new age modern applications coming in for their infrastructure. And they had to do this in record time because they had a deadline. What had happened within the bank is they had contracted an external ISV or an application vendor to come in to give them a digital banking product. And this application vendor demanded that their platform is only going to run on Kubernetes and containers. So they could not run this on a traditional virtual machine kind of environment. So they had to move to containers. That was one of the most compelling reasons why they needed to go, apart from all the reasons that I mentioned before in terms of agility and developing new products in a faster pace. So when this application vendor came in and they told them about this requirement, the bank obviously defaulted to the technologies that they were familiar with. And that's when we stepped in and we told them about Tanzu. We told them about what their existing investments were in terms of the VMware landscape. And within a span of, I would say, the most unique meeting that I had for this bank was a single 8-hour-long meeting where we talked to the infrastructure teams, the application teams, the management team. And we took 3 different tracks of conversations with them and convinced them on 3 different levels. And after that one meeting, and probably a few weeks later, we had completely made a 180-degree shift in their thinking, and they were able to place the order with us and go with Tanzu. And a couple of the main reasons that they did that was not only did they have a large VMware infrastructure, but they also wanted to move to this entire concept of hybrid multi-cloud. So they were actually one of the first customers to adopt VMC on AWS in this region. So today, the bank has an extremely strong platform with Tanzu. They also have vSphere, of course, for their virtualization layer, and they also have VMC on AWS. So now they have that portability across clouds from their data center to the public cloud. Kubernetes running on each of these environments as well could be possible. So these are the kind of things that kind of compel them to look at Tanzu. And also, from a Hugo perspective, one of the value adds that we were able to bring into the customer was the time to market and the speed of deployment. So our competitor, who they were supposed to award this project to, gave them a timeline of about 4 to 6 months to get this platform completely up and running. And we were able to deliver this project in 6 weeks, which was the fastest time to market for a Tanzu kind of deployment for an enterprise grade 3-site deployment we can talk about. And the customer was extremely happy with that.
Given your experiences, is there a typical strategy or adoption journey that you see emerging as a pattern here?
Yes, actually, we do, especially in this area of application modernization, right? Using Kubernetes is definitely a paradigm shift today. This paradigm shift involves a lot more aspects that you need to look at. So once the sale is done, or once the customer has this platform up and running, the next immediate thing that they require is the expertise to run this platform. They need someone to run their day-to operations, uh, because you can't expect your entire application team or infrastructure team to be completely familiar with running a new technology like containers or Kubernetes. It could be Tanzu, it could be anything else as well. But this is a common thing that we've seen in the world of Kubernetes. So day-to operations becomes extremely critical. And customers default and depend on partners like us, capable partners like us, to come in and help them on their day-to operations so that they can concentrate on delivering new products and new services to their customers. And we can concentrate on running that infrastructure completely smoothly, completely independently from their side. And then together with their developers, we can help in adopting more digital services onto this platform, and they don't need to worry about anything to do with the infrastructure here. So this is kind of a thing that's been emerging. Also, because of the criticality of application modernization and Kubernetes, a partner who plays in this space, and if that partner is able to successfully deliver on this project, automatically goes into the territory of trusted advisor. And this is because these kind of projects are usually under high visibility from management, and this involves a huge cultural change within the organization, a huge cultural change within the application development teams. So there's a lot of change that needs to be done. So once you become that trusted advisor, there's a lot of benefits that you can get. So today, if you look at the bank that I was talking about, the customer comes to us, comes to Hugo to discuss all of their digital strategy requirements, even though they have two other consulting organizations involved in this process. They still default to Hugo to re-verify what these consulting organizations are telling them and take a final opinion, so to speak, in terms of going ahead with what they want in terms of their strategy. Another point that I would like to make over here is Kubernetes and application modernization, especially with Tanzu, maps exactly to a kind of a land and expand strategy, which is where customers or partners can take a lot of benefits out from selling the solution. So, example of this customer once again, where we started off by just providing them the Tanzu platform, and of course deploying this platform for them. The immediate next step was, how are we going to run this thing? We need day-to operations from you, so please help us do this. So this was the next step. And now, quite literally in the sense of land and expand, they're looking to adopt more digital services onto this platform. In fact, they're trying to adopt some of their most critical banking applications, which are going completely containers and microservices onto Tanzu. And they want to expand literally from an environment perspective, from a licenses perspective, and of course for us from a services perspective. So it's quite a sweet deal both ways.
That's incredible. Now, do you see this kind of success happening mostly within services, or do you see it elsewhere as well, or even in terms of demand?
Definitely, it's not restricted to a certain industry, and definitely not to financial services alone. Application modernization as a subject is something that every industry and every organization is talking about today. So it's quite big. So it's transcending any industry. Of course, globally, what we see is that financial services and banking is usually where the innovation kind of starts because of the kind of demands that they have and the kind of customers that they have. But what we're seeing today is Kubernetes and application modernization is transcending all of that.
On that very positive note, I would like to thank you. At this time, we are joined by a very special partner, Wipro, and two gentlemen with whom I've been really fortunate to work with over many years.
So, Kamala, thanks a lot. And thanks a lot to VMware Tanzu for inviting us here. My name is Rahul Shah. I'm a vice president with Wipro Digital. I'm based out of Bangalore, and I'm responsible for global consultative sales as well as partnerships for Wipro and Wipro Digital.
My name is Anil Joseph. I'm also based out of Bangalore. So I'm the global practice head for VMware Tanzu in Wipro Digital. So I'm responsible for building the competency around the Tanzu suite of products, build unique value propositions around that, the solution delivery, and the go-to-market activities associated with it.
So we are, one of the largest global SIs based out of India. About $8+ billion. We just announced our results. We are tracking at about $8.25 billion, about 1,000+ customers, 180,000 people. I think these are all numbers at the end of the day. I think what sets us apart is the fact that every dollar that we earn, 67 cents go into charity. So Mr. Azim Premji, who's the founder of Wipro, has pledged most of his wealth to philanthropic purposes to a foundation called Azim Premji Foundation. And till date, he has pledged about $21 billion, which accounts for about 67% of his holdings in Wipro. And during his lifetime, he intends to pledge all of it. Apart from that, there is a huge focus on 2 or 3 things, and that is what drives us, that provides us with a purpose to come to the office on a daily basis. We are very focused on the community. For example, in the recent COVID crisis, we ended up supporting close to about 3.5 million people, distributed close to about 25 million meals, and set up a 450-bed COVID hospital within one of our campuses. So, and Mr. Premji personally donated about $140 million during COVID. So that's one. The second is sense of, we are very focused on sustainability. So if you come to our campuses, you will find a lot of practices, most of the practices which are sustainable, including the stationery that we provide to you. It is made from recycled paper. And the third thing is we have been rated as one of the most ethical firms by Ethisphere Institute for the 8th consecutive year. In fact, now just recently we got awarded the 8th time as well. So, so these are various things that set Wipro apart from a lot of our competitors. We established Wipro Digital about 5 years back, and the main reason and purpose was that we realized that our clients are finding transformation at the intersection of strategy, design, and technology, and they are very quickly moving towards new ways of working. And I think cloud native is a very critical component of moving to new ways of working. And that's where, Wipro Digital and erstwhile Pivotal and now Tanzu have been very natural partners, because we built quite a lot of foundational blocks in terms of moving towards new ways of working. And that is something that the erstwhile Pivotal and now Tanzu also espouses.
We started our journey 3.5 years ago. And I'm very proud to say today, I think we have emerged as the fastest growing global SI partner of VMware, as well as the fastest growing practice within Wipro Digital. And if you look at our journey, I think we have been very particular in offering certain unique value propositions to the client. So these are some of the areas we have built tremendous capabilities: middleware cost takeout, large scale .NET Core based modernization. So all these areas, if you see, we have something to offer beyond the traditional professional services. I think that makes us a differentiated player in the market and help us to achieve this tremendous growth over the last 3.5 years.
Maybe I can add a couple of more things. I think we have gotten unprecedented trust and support from the erstwhile Pivotal and now VMware Tanzu. So we almost consider them to be our family. And that trust has been built because of our flawless delivery track record as well as innovation track record. So we are up for any kind of a challenge because we have the right talent for it.
So it would be great actually to hear some of your success stories so that people can get a sense of whether getting started on this path is actually worth it, right? And in particular, I'd love if you could share something, that's perhaps an Asia-based customer.
So let me take a great example. In fact, we are very, very proud of this example because it happens to be a new logo that we have won along with VMware Tanzu in India. This is a leading stock exchange equivalent to a NASDAQ or Dow Jones in India. Market cap is about $2.3 trillion and average daily turnover is about $8.5 billion. They realized, and it's amazing that a stock exchange where people have to come necessarily to do their trades realizes that experience is the key for them to grow further. And towards that, they decided to look at 5 of their key processes, including listing processes, clearing and settlement processes. And they started on a journey to transform those. We stepped in, and sometime back, Kamala, I spoke about our capabilities around strategy, design, and technology, including design. We are one of the largest strategic design houses in the world with about 600 plus designers, strategic designers. So we are working with them to do process consulting, to do reimagination of these processes, and then bringing them to life using the technology stack, which is based on VMware Tanzu. Yeah. So in my mind, this is a great example of helping a client transform across the entire gamut of strategy, design, and technology. Multiple benefits is what we have achieved for them. So we have helped them reduce the turnaround times from a development perspective using Tanzu, increasing the developer productivity. Obviously, we have helped them with the cost reduction, improved security, compliance, everything that VMware Tanzu stands for, we have helped them and we are helping them in this transformation journey.
Incredible. And Anil, I think you were talking about COTS and deploying COTS applications on Tanzu as well, and that's an area where you've built up some expertise. So would you tell us more about perhaps the background behind this, like what's driving this? Why are customers asking for this?
Yeah, I think thanks for asking this question, Kamala. It's very, very, very relevant. I think this customer, which is one of the global IT hardware majors, they have their portal on a yearly basis attracts billions of transactions. But the team which manages that platform or that portal, I think their major challenge whenever there is a new product to be launched, whenever any new features to be enabled, that process has been taking weeks and months. And this has been built on certain third-party products, which are yet to be compatible for containerization. So the next step was about, I think there are multiple environments, moving each of these environments to TKGI. So once this is achieved, we worked with the client for some more time to see the progress. Today, the team is able to introduce new products, new features in a matter of a few days, sometimes in a matter of few weeks if it is a new product development by itself. So the business team is happy, the tech team is happy, and this has proved to the world that it's not a myth that third-party COTS products can be containerized. And that has given us the confidence to take this approach for some of the other COTS products, some of the legacy app servers. There are many of the organizations have the challenge of running a lot of their workloads on legacy app servers, migrating them to cloud, containerizing it. These are some of the challenges many of the large enterprises are going through as part of their cloud migration journey. So this has given us the confidence to extend the capabilities to the other products, and we have been engaged with multiple customers in helping this kind of migrations. So, in fact, in this case, the customer has given a testimonial stating that today they can spin up new environment in maximum 2 hours time. So that's the beauty, or that is the business value we have delivered to the customer by containerizing a product. And Tanzu also, the team was also of great help in making this journey successful.
That's awesome to hear. It's always great when the customer is succeeding along with us, right? Um, so one thing I noticed is that, Rahul, your company's example was from Asia, and Anil, your example is from the Americas. Do we have, just to round out this magic carpet trip around the world, do you have something to share from perhaps EMEA, not to leave it out?
So we have some customers in the EMEA region also, which includes a utility major, a telecom major. So I will talk about the fantastic work that we have been doing for this utility customer over the last 3 years. So when this organization started its DaaS adoption, okay, I think like most of the cases, the first environment, the first foundation was set up by the Pivotal Professional Services team. And the client wanted to have multiple foundations on-prem as well as in multiple public cloud environments. So from there, the Wipro team took over that journey in a managed services construct. So we went ahead, set up the foundations or environments in 2 more public cloud environments. We set up one more on-prem environment, and then this has converted into a center of excellence where this team not only managing the platform, they became the evangelists for DaaS adoption within the customer environment. So any application team, any business team within this customer, those who are contemplating or those who have already taken a call in terms of moving their services or apps to DaaS, this team will do all the enablement, including architecture definition, supporting them in migrating the apps to DaaS. So this journey has been successfully continuing, and currently we are trying to extend this to more Tanzu suite of products and add more value to our customers.
Well, on that happy note, let's kind of close this session out, and I look forward to continued amazing work with you folks, and let's cheers to good times.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this trip around the globe, hearing from partners at the forefront of application modernization with VMware Tanzu. We have a lot more to share with you in the Modern Apps section of Partner Connect. Please check it out. Until then, thank you for joining us. Bye now.